You know what's so funny? We want people to make guarantees to us, but we're not willing to make guarantees to ourselves. You always want to blame other people. You always want to hold other people to the fire, but you're not holding yourself to the fire. You just said you're giving 50%. You owe you an explanation. I stopped saying I've got to wait for good things to happen to me, and I said I'm going to grind. I'm going to fight. I'm going to work. I'm going to press toward. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do everything in my power every single day. I'm going to do everything in my power to become a victor and not a victim.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Patrick, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about how I grew my shoulders, how I got these boulder shoulders. No, before you ask, I did not get surgery to insert bowling balls in my shoulders. You're probably wondering how I got these Death Star delts then if I didn't do that. So that's what I'm going to cover in this video. I'm going to talk about the 3 main things that you need to focus on if you're trying to grow your shoulders. And then another thing, I'm going to cover a couple mistakes that people make that you definitely want to avoid if you're trying to grow your shoulders. And I think I got the credentials to make this video, and also, with my starting point of being a really skinny kid, I definitely, put on some size on my shoulders. And I definitely think that's honestly one of my strong points of my physique, and they kind of just like shadow over my lackluster chest. So it's not always a good thing, but boulder shoulders, it is what it is. So I'm gonna cover in this video, like I said, how you guys can get boulder shoulders as well. So the first thing you need to focus on if you're trying to grow your shoulders is frequency. So frequency is just the amount of times you're hitting your shoulders per week, how many times you're working them out. So basically you want to be hitting your delts twice a week, and you want good isolation work in those 2 workout days. So it doesn't really matter if you're doing a push-pull leg split, a bro split, whatever other split, upper lower split. As long as you're hitting your delts twice per week, then you're going to be okay. And some people would recommend maybe even 3 times a week, but I feel like once you get, past twice a week, if you're training intensely and you're training with good enough volume, once you get into 3 times a week territory, that's when, lingering soreness and accumulating fatigue is gonna reach into your other workouts. And then if you're doing shoulders too much, you won't be able to hit chest properly because, pressing movements uses your front delt and all that stuff. So I'd say honestly, limit it to twice a week. That way you can hit shoulders very intensely with good volume each session you have, training your shoulders. Now the next thing you need to do, and I think this is the most important one, is exercise selection. A lot of people think you want bigger shoulders, start pressing heavier, dumbbell press with hundreds, or barbell press or standing military press, or get a bigger bench. Now these things will attribute to bigger shoulders and better shoulder development, but this cannot be your only type of shoulder movement, and this should not be your main focus. I do think it's a good idea to progressively overload on all your chest movements. That's gonna inadvertently grow your shoulders, especially barbell overhead press, dumbbell press, all that type of stuff. That's definitely going to work your delts. You do need to overload on that, but exercise selection in terms of you need to be having good volume on your side delt, good volume on your rear delt. Going in there and hitting 3 different types of overhead pressing is not going to grow your shoulders. So the 3 different types of lateral raises you guys need to be doing, and 3 different types of lateral raises that when I started doing these, I saw my shoulders literally explode, are of course a standing lateral raise. You guys need tons of drop sets. You need pausing at the top, partial reps, all that type of stuff. Mix that all in, but just basic standing lateral raise. And then also another one you want to incorporate is leaning lateral raise. And I want to lean you to both sides because we're going to get the best of both worlds in this. So you're going to have one type of leaning lateral raise where you're leaning toward kind of a resistance, right? Like a pole or a wall or whatever it is. And then you have the weight down at your side like you can see in this video. Because when you do this, it's going to take the momentum completely out of the movement. Every rep, you're going to dead stop the weight on your leg, and then, lateral raise it up using only your side delt. And then the other type of swinging lateral raise is going to be the complete opposite, where you're kind of like holding on to a pole or holding on to a machine and leaning the opposite way, and you're letting the weight kind of hang down. And as you can see in this video, I'm using weight a little bit more than I would usually use for a standing side lateral raise. And in this one, I'm using the momentum with me and I'm using it to help me. Where I'm swinging the weight up, I'm trying to pause it at the top for maybe half a second to a second, and then doing my best to control it on the way down. A lot of people think that when you train your shoulders and when you train your side delts, you got to go super lightweight and a ton of reps, which isn't very important, and you need to do that, but you do need some type of overload, because like every other muscle, you want to be constantly progressively overloading, using more heavier weights, using different types of way to, increase that hypertrophy. So when we do this swinging lateral raise, we're getting a nice overload on our side delts. And the last thing is going to be a mind muscle connection. So definitely you need your proper form on, like every other exercise, you guys need proper form. And especially with shoulders, it is no different. So what I want you guys to do is, instead of just standing there and doing your side lateral raise where you're thinking about, bringing the weight to the ceiling or bringing it to your side, I want you guys to decompress your shoulders and, roll your shoulders back as if you're about to bench press, and then have a slight bend in your arm. They don't need to be completely straight. And when you side lateral raise, think of almost pulling the weight up by your pinkies or pulling your weight up by your elbow. Think of it like you're a puppet and someone is like controlling you, and there literally has a string attached to your elbow and they're pulling your elbow straight up. This way you're going to get the most activation in your side delt, and it's going to take out any type of trap or upper back involvement. Another thing you guys want to focus on is different types of weight to do different types of progressive overload. You want some sets where you're doing light weights with about 15 reps, and that way you can really control the weight and feel it in your delt, which will increase this mind muscle connection. And another way you want to, like I said previously, you want to be overloading with heavier dumbbells, using a little bit of swing, and changing up your form, guys. Form doesn't have to be perfect 100% of the time. When you're trying to elicit overload, it's okay to have a little bit of swing in your step, as long as you're controlling the weight at some part of the movement, whether that's the top, the middle, the bottom, because that's going to elicit progressive overload as well. We're trying to build up shoulders, so a 15-pound dumbbell isn't always going to do the trick. You got to mix it up sometimes. Now, one mistake you definitely want to avoid that I see a lot of people do is when they go with their lateral raises, they're doing two things. They don't have a good mind muscle connection, and they're swinging the weight up too much where they're ego lifting it, so that they're literally just doing a trap shrug and an upper back like swing. So it's not even working their delts at all. So when I say, you need to elicit progressive overload, it's okay of having a little bit of a swing. That means it still has to be controlled. Once you use the other techniques that I previously listed of gaining a mind muscle connection and making sure your form is proper on these lateral raises, then you can increase the weight. Now, another thing I did to make my shoulders grow is I made them a priority. And I think this is probably the most important fact when it comes to, growing your shoulders or growing any body part that's lagging just in general, is you need to make them a priority. If you think that you're going to grow your shoulders or your arms or your chest or whatever by just tacking on a couple extra sets, a couple extra reps at the end of each workout, that is not going to happen. So make your shoulders a priority if you really want to grow them. And the way that I did this was all my push days or all my chest and shoulder days, I wouldn't do all my chest stuff and use up all my energy and then do my shoulders at the end. What I would do is I would rotate between chest and shoulders. So I would start with like a heavy bench, then maybe do some type of shoulder press, then some type of lateral raise, then back to chest, and then just going back and forth between chest and shoulders, instead of just doing, all my chest stuff, going really heavy, exerting myself, having no energy, and then just doing, 2-3 exercises at the end of shoulders, not really into it, kind of tired and near the end of my workout. That won't grow a weak point. That definitely won't work for growing your shoulders, so you need to make them a priority. Another thing that helped me grow my shoulders was treating them like any other body part and hitting them accordingly. So you wouldn't go in and do bench and just do like 3 sets of 12 reps with the same weight every week. You try to change up the reps a little bit, change up the weight a little bit, have some heavy sets, have some lighter sets, more controlled, and constantly mix it up and change to progressively overload over time, instead of just going in there and hitting, 3 sets of 12 reps with the same weight every week. That won't grow your shoulders. You need to constantly be mixing it up and progressively overloading. And that's basically it. The last thing is, of course, like anything else in this world and in the gym, you got to be consistent with it. You got to consistently be doing these techniques and implementing these different strategies, and your shoulders will grow. I promise. Take it from a kid who was very skinny and had 0 delts to, bowling ball shoulders that I have now. So if you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like and subscribe if you're new. If you want any other types of videos of me going in depth on, maybe how I grew my arms, how I grew my back, how I increase squat, deadlift, all that type of stuff, comment that down below so I have some more video ideas. But that is it for this video, so I will catch you guys on the next one. Please check out my most recent video before this of a full day of eating, and that is it. Peace.